Hey there, Doug here. This week's bonus interview is with someone from across the pond. It sounds kind of douchey, but she is from England, so I can say that. And she was like a Swiss Army knife. She does puppeteering, motion capture, voiceover, acting. She does it all, and I'm talking about this week's guest, Luisa Guerreiro. She was great. We talked about growing up and how something she wanted to do. Her and her twin sister used to perform from the children's shows she watched growing up. So that was pretty cool. She talked about how she got into motion capture. She has some really cool stories about a big movie she just worked on. It was about a year ago probably that she worked on it, but the movie was a big hit. Maleficent? Man, I can never say that. But the sequel to that, starring Angelina Jolie. So, well, without further ado, this is Luisa Guerreiro.
And I had an audition with a casting director for what I thought was a film. And it was 5 weeks filming in Montreal. And I was like, this is amazing. This can be my big break. They wanted someone who had stage fright experience. And I was like, I'm 4'9". They never bring me in. And The Hobbit's gone. It's gone now. They're not going to use me. And I thought, okay, I'll go for it. I'll send her an email. I'll outline my stage fighting and see what happens. And I got an audition because it was motion capture.
Oh, cool.
They said it didn't really matter about your height. They just wanted to see how you could move. So I went up for a character that had a Lancashire accent. And I was like, okay, I'm going to really practice, get in there. Did the audition. It was self-taped in the actual studio. Waited about 2 weeks. And then I got feedback saying, we really liked your audition, but the clients decided to go a different way. Normal story. And, I was like, okay. And then a year later, I got an email from someone I'd never heard of before, a company in London called Side. They do voiceover for computer games and things like that, lots of films, ADR. I was like, these people have got the wrong actress. They were like, we really liked your audition. We'd like to bring you in for a voiceover. I was like, they have the wrong actress, but I'm not going to tell them. I'm just going to go and sign the paperwork. And when I got there, I realized that the tape that I had done a year before for this 5 weeks in Montreal motion capture ended up being Assassin's Creed Black Flag. And they liked my voice for one of the characters, which ended up being Caroline Scott, who's married to Edward Kenway. And so that's the voiceover I tended to do, and that got me into motion capture because it was all facial recognition with all the dots, and then voiceover at the same time. And then while I was there, I also did Jennifer Scott as part of the game and a few other voices. But that was my first foray into the dots. I was like, how can I do more? A career which isn't about how you look? Oh, this is great. Considering I'm now very much in an aspirational casting bracket and look like the love child of Danny DeVito. It doesn't work for me. So I was like, motion capture, the way forward. And then just delved. And that's how I got into the whole thing. I found out who was doing motion capture in the UK, found out who was doing it elsewhere in the USA, Australia, Europe, New Zealand, like all over. I'm finding companies who work predominantly in motion capture happened in health services and then moved over into the entertainment sphere. And it's just so liberating. But now I think everyone else is getting into it now. And I'm like, no, hold on to the horse. Hold on. But,
well, it's good that you have that experience. But before that, what got you in, like growing up? When did you think about, hey, I want to be a performer?
Well, I'm one of two. I'm an actor as a kid, but also I had a twin. So we just played off each other. It was constant CCTV, like children's TV the whole time. We would mimic voices. We would copy Animaniacs, sing all the theme tunes to all the cartoons we watched. We'd always do shows for people say that a lot. Like, we did shows when we were growing up. It was Victorian age. We would just do shows for our parents about musical versions of Little Mermaid that we'd watched on a loop on the VHS that showed about 6 times in one day. My mother was pulling her hair out. She's like, enough. The woman needs to get out of the sea. Just stop it. And that was it, basically performing. And then school, we had the option of doing plays. But my mum was dead against drama. Like, she's very Mediterranean. She's very like, be a lawyer. That's where the money is. And in the end, I just thought, okay, acting is going to be my hobby. What can I do for my real job?
Yeah.
And I never had an issue figuring out what I was going to do for my hobby. I was like, that's absolutely sure. I know that's going to be my hobby, but I never knew what I wanted to do for my real job. And the whole way going through primary school, the whole way as I was growing up, my mum was like, it's a hobby. People don't make any money out of acting. In her very blunt way, you're not Gwyneth Paltrow. They're not going to hire you. I was like, thanks, Mum. I love you too. She's very comforting, but she's realistic as well. And she's like, if you do it, a lot of people who get into acting, from her perspective, already were in the industry. Like their parents are in the industry, their families work in the industry. They know how the cogs work. So if you're outside of the Trojan horse looking in, it's really hard to know how to break through and be part of that invading force in the entertainment industry. And so what I ended up doing was waiting until I got to university. I could call my own shots, and then crushed my mother.
Yeah.
I was going to do 3 years, not at Oxford and not at Cambridge, but at a wonderful institution called Royal Holloway, drama and theatre studies. And she was just like, what's that going to get you? I was like, it's going to get me joy. That's what it's going to get me. Joy and possibly work and the ability to communicate. She's like, life is not about being happy. You shouldn't be happy. Life's about work. I was just like, okay, love you too, Mum. It's great. But I think also having my mum and having a very crazy family, I think helps any performer because you have constant material.
Yeah.
That's how I got in. Just basically perseverance, always acting and playing with kids. People don't realize, Hook is a great film.
Oh, yeah.
It just shows you that Robin Williams was great. He's my idol. I'm so upset that he's no longer with us. He is in spirit. But it's actors like that, Jim Carrey, Robin Williams, Imelda Staunton, those are the ones I look up to who have this childlike play that they never really take themselves too seriously. And even when I was growing up, I loved prattling around. I loved pratfalling. I loved clowning about. And it's the kind of thing that meant that when I'm now acting in front of kids or talking to kids, I really don't care what they think. I just want to engage and find out what's going on in their cogs. And because kids are honest. And if you're not honest as an actor, I know it sounds ironic, but if you're not honest with yourself first, how can you lie to everyone?
No, because they're going to, especially with kids too, they'll smell the BS. They'll know if you're lying. My wife's teacher, so she mentions it all the time.
Oh, she must be the best person to try and get around because she's like the ultimate test.
Yeah, she knows that. She knows everything. Yeah, I can't trick her. She's good.
I used to try and trick my teachers, and they 2 steps ahead. It was like trying to trick Voldemort.
Yes.
No, they've seen it right through me.
I've seen that. I've seen that little fake drop your pencil cheat thing many a times. You're not going to trick me.
It's when you copy your sister's homework, and they're like, well, didn't consider that we live together.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, we got all the right and wrong answers because we're twins, right? We think the same.
Yeah.
You copied your sister's homework, Louisa, at 4:00 in the morning. That's, so those kind of things. But yeah, I just always wanted to be an actor, I suppose. And the opportunity came when I was an adult and was very jealous of anyone who went to child acting schools. Desperately wanted to go to, the Sylvia Youngs, the Anna Shares of our UK. And I never got the opportunity because, to be fair to my mum, I'm not going to blame her for everything. My mum and dad, they're working class. My dad was an upholsterer. My mum was a cleaner. And she just had her own priorities. And with 2, I think anyone with 1 child will always attest how hard it is to keep finances going. My mum was like, do you want to wear clothes or do you want to do drama? And I would have answered drama.
Yeah.
She was very much like, I need to dress you. I need to feed you. I need to take you to school. That is my priority. Anything else that I put money into is going to be for the holiday once every 5 years.
Yeah.
If you're lucky. Or it's something which I think is worthwhile. Like, oh, you got a place in the Maths Institute. Oh, I'll pay for that. Oh, science. Excellent. Music. No, sing outside. It just wasn't happening. She's very droll. But I think when you have to fight against something, and I had very good teachers who all advocated the importance of life and not wasting time. And they just said, look, if you're going to study something for 3 years, you might as well pick something you actually are interested in. and not go somewhere just because you want to join the societies. You need to be somewhere where those 3 years are going to be taken up doing something that they're going to test you on, and they're going to ask you to be enthused about. If all you're doing is just signing in and then going to the drama and the musical theatre workshops that are outside, it's not going to work. It's a waste of your money and your time. And I think that clocked in here.
Yeah, that's what I hear from a lot of like actors and performers that I talk to. You can't like think that I can do this part-time and actually make it.
Yeah, you can't.
You don't have that mindset of like, I'm hungry. Like I talked to a guy last week. He's the performer on the Muppets.
Oh, wow. I probably know him.
His name's Peter Linz.
I know of him.
Okay.
I know who's worked in Muppets. He's a wonderful puppeteer who I've worked alongside, Andrew Spooner.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I'm also a puppeteer. So growing up with Labyrinth and The Dark Crystal, when The Dark Crystal came out on Netflix, I was like, you have my undivided attention.
Yes, no, I know.
But yeah, that's another thing. Like you pick up objects, you pick up toys as a kid, and you make it work.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the one thing I wish people would infuse to actors is that, yes, it's about being creative, and yes, it's about sharing and telling stories. But ultimately, and I don't agree with this, ultimately it's a business, and it's run like a business, and the people who make it are the ones who other people have seen potential in the product, and then they sell the product, and you become a product. You become, how do we sell this? How do we use this person to get more money for us for this venture? You know, how much is that person going to bring to us? And then a lot of that becomes about who invests in you, how you can get yourself a profile. And if you have no profile, then you're fighting to get work just to pay rent. And it's a business. It's how do you make yourself seem, what's the word? And it's not aspirational. How do you make yourself valued?
Yeah.
You need to feel valued to people, because people are the ones who basically bring you on. If you can bring people to a product that isn't yours, then you become a marketable commodity. And that's the struggle I've had. I'm like, oh, all these people have got PR behind them. All of these people have got agents who are like top agents. You know, how did you get out that job? Oh, my agent. How? Well, you know, they have this top A-star talent, and they basically turned around to the casting people and said, you can have this person, you can have them read, but you need to see 5 of other actors. And it all stays very in-house, and I think that's the battle. It's not about the creativity first, it's about the marketing first.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, I talked to a couple of producers, and it kind of like plays to what you said. Sometimes, and I never knew this, so when I talked to this one guy, he didn't produce a lot of big movies, but he's worked with films that did. So even if actors aren't as good as they used to be, what they do is they look at like their last 5 years, what their movies grossed, and they can actually get a loan from some banks in order to make their movie. So that's why they'll go with, not saying Nicolas Cage is a bad actor now, but he does some wild.
They'll go with the name.
Yes. So with Nicolas Cage, they'll use him because they can get X amount of dollars, but they won't try, you know, Bob Smith, who might be a better actor for the role, which isn't good. And that's why some movies fail.
And I do, and I'm probably rare as an actor, but I feel sorry for the producers, actors, casting directors. We're all in the same boat. You know, you can't go, oh, they're all villains because they adhere to this format. It's very pyramid scheming, and oh, we hate it, and it's unfair. But casting directors are also trying to get themselves up into the higher echelons of being a casting director who casts more and prestigious stuff. Yeah. And they can only do that if they cast top talent, because then you're the casting director that has the contacts with the top talent. So then you're sought after. And then the producers want to do more and more high-scale productions, films, movies. If they can't get top talent, they'll stay where they are. So they've got to get top talent to get the better movies to more budget. So it's all an ongoing thing of trying to be in the higher echelon so that you can progress your own career. Yeah. But then you were also at that stage where you were fighting that format, that beast, because the talent there's a lot of talent on the higher echelons as well. There's a reason why they're there. But there's so much talent bubbling underneath that never gets noticed because they don't hit the marketing beast. They haven't quite cracked into that yet. And then I have friends who've been with top agents, and they're like, great, I'm getting seen for wonderful stuff, like amazing stuff. And I sit there going, Wonderful. I had one audition. The rest of it was auditioning to see if I could sell canapes. It was fun. But that you have that story, but then they turn around and they're like, yeah, but I've got 2,000 other beautiful girls in that room. And it makes you feel self insecure, self-conscious. And I've had friends dropped from top agents because they didn't land 3 of their jobs. They didn't land 3 of their auditions. So now they're in this big corporate windmill of creativity meets marketability. They're petrified of leaving it, and also petrified of being invisible in it, because everyone's focusing on the people that are making the agency money. So as actors, we're constantly fighting ourselves and fighting units around us. And then you just have to kind of forget sometimes and go, well, what am I? What in the words of Jean Valjean, who am I? And just find out who you are and not be apologetic and go, fine, if you don't see that yet, that's absolutely fine. If I'm not marketable to you, it's absolutely fine. I don't judge the actors who are on Instagram and go, ad first. I'm like, well, if it's an ad first, please don't act like you like the product and that you've been using it all your life. Just do me a favor. Don't put ad first. Don't let people pay you for that. I know I'm going to be that person who, if I ever make it, I'll be like, oh, I said that back then, did I? Oh, but Swarovski want me to do this and they're going to pay me a lot. I think I'm going to if I pick up like a bottle that happens to be called, Verve Life, I'll be like, do you know what? I really like that. Hey, Insta, I'm not being paid, but as a product consumer and just like you, I kind of like this, so maybe give it a go. But there's a lot of this ad. Oh, do you know, I got this. Thank you so much, guys. I got this from the marketeers, and it actually is amazing. And you're like, you lost me.
I know. You can tell when it's so fake, like the way the photos look. You're like, that's not professional photographer just uploading the photo.
It's all image, it's all marketing. And if you become a product and then you're selling other products, it's amazing how much stuff you get for free.
Oh yeah.
It's incredible. So that's the disadvantage of acting. And then you have beautiful opportunities that come to you and you just go, yeah, this is why I want to do it. This is why I'll probably still act when I'm 80 years old, because even if I'm not made it big, even if I'm not like a Maggie Smith out there or a Sheila Burnett, I think what I'll do is I'll just be an extra and I'll just have custard cream biscuits and tea the whole of my later career and just be a very old short lady who looks cute in the background. I mean, it's a living. I never have to retire. Like $120 a day just to sit in the background. Better than the park.
Yeah.
I like it. But yeah, I mean.
So how is the motion capture now? So you did it then, or you're still doing it, right?
I still try and keep my foot in it. My disadvantage and my advantage has always been my height. And I think most actors who are very tall and very short will have this issue. How do I become defined outside of my height? How does my talent get shown first without me being bracketed as the funny one, the short, serious one, like the Linda Hunt, who is now different as a casting because she's short. And she's the only short person in that production because they make something of it, who I think is wonderful as well. So motion capture is wonderful because I get to play child actors, I get to play creatures, I get to use my movement skills to pratfall, to be funny. My stage fighting comes in useful. So all of those things that aren't about aesthetics and they're about how you move and bring integrity to a role, I'm still trying to keep my fingers in the pies. And when a child role comes up, it's great because I'll still get seen for it, hopefully a lot of the time. But then you also have wonderful child actors who are coming up through. I say wonderful with a lot of bitterness because their licenses get signed very quickly by mummy and daddy. Mummy, where were you? And I get it because you need to get that authenticity. But the reason I get hired is because I babysit a lot, I child sit a lot, and I watch and observe, and that's what actors do. And so when I play a child, I don't play an adult pretending to be a child. I play a child. And the thing I've noticed, especially works with motion capture, because it's such a subtle way of recording data. Like it really, you have to be so honest in your interpretation of a role because it picks up everything these days.
Yeah.
Kids spend their time trying to be more adult, and adults spend their time trying to be more juvenile.
Yeah.
That's what I've noticed. Adults are always trying to get back to their youth, and young people, and this is a generalization, but something I've noticed with babysitting and child sitting is they're constantly trying to act older than they are. So when I play a child, I always base it on someone I know, on an 8-year-old that I've taken care of.
Oh, wow.
Their mannerisms, they are mini parents. You can see their parents, how they've spoken to them. They just go, why? And they don't go, why? I've never seen a kid do that with their neck. Not unless they have polio. That, no. But that's motion capture for me is children and creatures. And I've worked on some really lovely games. I worked on Destiny, a few creature characters on that, and Horizon was the one that I did that I absolutely adored, because she was me as a kid. She was a tomboy, and she was fearless and yet vulnerable, and she was growing up, and she was unsure, and she was brave, and I still have this, I don't know about you, she had a never-ending sense of justice. She watched far too much Superman growing up and Indiana Jones and just wanted to right the world, and it came out in this child who was in this very wild and unforgiving environment, and you had to imagine it all.
Yeah, no, that's what you have to do.
Fantastic for that, because you get to be that kid imagining with your toys. So, I mean, it's a privilege to work in motion capture, and there's a lot of training going on now, a lot of people training in motion capture, doing courses, but it's a business as well. A lot of the time they'll bring on profile performers, and if you're a good actor, more than likely you'll be good at motion capture if you have an understanding of what it is to act with your entire body. So you get amazing actors doing mocap these days for films, for computer games, for animations, for live action. And it works because the base is good. So, I mean, I love it. I'd do it for the whole of my life if I could, but I'm just one of those people that tries to do everything.
Yeah, no, which is good. It's always good to know so many different things. And it's good you've been doing it for a while. And on your IMDb, I don't know if it's right or not, because sometimes it's not, but it has you as a credit for Maleficent, the Mistress of Evil. That's pretty cool.
That was very cool. I can't say much about it because
I know.
But suffice to say, there were some stunt people there, and I walked in 4'9", stage combatant, and you can see them going, "Who are you? Why are you here? We're here. We don't need you." And they were very sweet, but there was definitely that feel. And I wasn't used until the later part of the day, so I got there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm sitting there, and I'm in my very attractive lycra with my bubbles, my markers. And I was like, any minute now, they're going to call me up, and they're going to put me on a jerk rig. And I'm going to be like, it's amazing. I want to be on a jerk rig and just fly across the room. Yeah. And they did all that. They started dismantling. I went, not going to be on a jerk rig. Okay, why am I here? Why am I here? And then they brought out a tuning fork. And I was like, okay, things just got serious with a tuning fork. Do you know what a tuning fork is?
No, what is that?
It's a steel structure that has 2 pillars either side and then like a harness in the middle. So basically you stand in the middle of this harness and you're levitated off the ground, and it allows you to spin on all types of axes.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, well, they've got the stunties here for that. And they all had a go on it, and they all were beautifully gymnastic. Like, these people are amazing. There's a reason why stunt people work the way they do.
Yeah.
They are skilled. And then I realized why I was there, because I was unskilled. So I was there to be all the unskilled characters in Maleficent, all the ones who were still learning, who didn't need to look graceful. So I felt good. I was like, I can do this. I can be unskilled. I'm great at being unskilled. So anything that was quite young, that was like a podling maybe, or a creature that hadn't quite learned how to fly or hadn't quite learned how to land, that was my job.
That's cool.
I'm stuck in the tuning fork with a stunt person behind me going, it's okay, I'll hold her leg. Because evidently I was going all over the place. But I was like, I'm absolutely fine. You don't need to hold my leg. And they were like, you can hurt yourself. I went, the one thing I know how to do is pratfall and fearlessly do things with no technique. That's me. I'm in a tuning fork. I can't go anywhere. So my job was to basically look organic. So, because gymnasts, to their credit, they are amazing gymnasts. But if you ever watch a gymnast, and I have friends who will say that this is true, it's very hard for them to break the muscle memory.
No, I'm sure.
What they've learned to do for 10, 15 years. So when they're doing a rotation, naturally they will kick out, or naturally they will bend their spine in a certain way because they're used to coming back to their feet.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're doing like the motion capture for a stunt, maybe for like a film, I know I had to do that once, where you're thrown from a car. They don't want a spin that lands elegantly. They want a gymnast who can be messy.
Yeah.
They want it to look real. And it's really hard if you're just a gymnast to do that. If you're an actor and a gymnast, it's great. And if you're a stunt person who really understands that acting, it can be a real challenge for you, because you have to basically tell your body not to do what it's learned to do.
Yeah, which is hard.
Me, when you put me in a tuning fork and they go, great, you need to just fall, then I can just do what I need to do with my body as if I'm falling, because the actor in me goes, well, what would my body do?
Yeah.
If I'm just falling against air and terminal velocity is there, I'm not going to worry how I look. My legs are not going to be listening to my spine. They're just going to be at the whim and will of terminal velocity of the air coming past. So that's where it becomes really liberating. And with motion capture, of course, there's no audio. They're just recording all the data, and they can use it with so many characters. So we just kept going over and over.
That's awesome.
And the VFX person who was there was a real delight, and he very, very supportive. It was just like, do you know what? Just play. We're capturing really great data here, so it's great. And then what we had was just throws and jumps. And I'm the kind of performer that, I think just being a kid, I was the kind of person who just played in mud all the time.
Yeah.
Very girly. My friends would be, nothing about being girly, it just wasn't me. They would be outside playing mummies and daddies with a skipping rope, and I was like, I'm not being the baby again. I'm going to play football. So that was me. So when it comes to motion capture, I get to run and jump and go through tight spaces and pretend that I'm jumping off a waterfall and landing onto earth. So for me, it's a lot of fun. I need to stop jumping onto mats with my face.
Yeah.
Because the actor in me goes, that looks realistic. Like, if you were going into water and you didn't know what you were doing because you were in a coma, you would just be limp. But a lot of the risk assessment people are there going, no.
Yeah, don't do that.
It'll be fine. I'm fine. But that's just me. I prefer getting it right. If I have to do it 5 times, then it can be it can pain.
I bet. Then you get a little concussed, and then
I prefer getting the data right. And if it's a big crash mat, I don't mind. But it's new to me when people turn around to me and go, there are some actors who won't do that because they just have a different sensitivity to things. And
yeah.
So I do appreciate that. But for me, it's just fun. It's just like being a kid. It really is. I feel fraudulent. You know, when people say they have imposter syndrome, every time I walk on a mocap set, I'm like, seriously?
I'm doing this? Yeah.
It's the job, right? Okay. This is cool. And it's probably why it's so popular.
No, that's awesome.
Actors love that stuff. But yeah, it's awesome, and it's very freeing, and it's being used more and more now, like just motion capture, just for Oculus Rift and things like that, like in-house screens.
Oh, yeah.
Like when they're doing a lot of immersive stuff, like that's the new thing, VR. It's really exciting to think that you can have motion captured performances while you look through and follow a journey, and yet you're in control of your own path. I think that's going to be the new big thing.
No, that's pretty awesome. So one thing before I let you go, because I like to always ask folks this, is so you've done a lot, you do a lot of jobs, you wear so many different hats. So what would be like the ideal, like right now, like, is there like a dream role or something that you have in your mind that if you're able to do that, you would be like so floored or wowed?
So many. I mean, I'd love to do, if I could get a choice right now,
yeah,
a movie picture with puppets, including Muppet style and animatronic like Dark Crystal, where I get to be the lead, do my own stunts, and there has to be musical songs in it that I sing.
I love it.
Would be my ultimate kind of dream, just an action adventure musical with puppets and stunts. I mean, I'm asking for too much, am I?
No, that's not. I would see that.
And if we could bring Robin Williams back from the dead, so that, I mean, the joyousness of that. would be just incredible.
It could be like a voodoo type movie, and then
like Jumanji meets Dora the Explorer.
Yes, that sounds good.
I mean, I generally look like Dora the Explorer. I travel around with a huge backpack, so maybe we need to disassociate myself from that look. But yeah,
so awesome.
So it has to have comedy and a few child actors in it who keep me on my toes. I actually don't mind working with children. I find them entertaining.
Yeah, no, especially you can get into that mode. Not a lot of people can get behind the character, especially a child. So that's amazing.
And you've got to get children who want to do it.
Yeah,
I've worked on a few projects, not high scale, but when I was first starting out, and there's a lot of this thing of people knowing that kids, when they like to play, they'll be good actors, or they want to. But the whole thing about acting is it can be boring at times. You're on set for 12 hours. You have to do the same thing over and over, and then it doesn't become play. So you need a child that's absolutely engrossed in the medium of repetitive play and still having fun every time.
Yeah.
I just want to play, because all children want to play. And I've been on a couple of projects where you can see a child just wants to be around people, but they don't really want to be on screen.
Yeah, they're over it. They're like, all right, I'm done playing after 2 hours.
I want to do it. And I have to sit there and go, I know, I'm with you, mate. Like, completely. I don't want to do it either, but I enjoy this. Are you enjoying this? And like, no, mummy said we're good at it. And you're like, okay, we'll play later. Just say the lines how the director wants. I promise we'll play later.
Yeah.
So you then become the child sitter. But no. What's your ideal project? Does anyone ever ask you that?
My ideal project, I love horror films, and I think because you have the ability to make them on a low budget. So I have a few that I've written. So down the road, I would like to do that. But ideally, to me personally, I love interviewing, talking to so many different folks. I've interviewed, people that are behind the camera. So like what you're doing with the motion capture. I've interviewed directors. I've interviewed a lot of actors. So my goal right now is to really just interview everyone. So like casting directors, producers, and it's a lot of fun. And thanks so much for taking the time. And we'll definitely catch up again. Because,
please. I mean, not if I end up, committing a crime just for showreel material.
Yeah.
But,
or if you get too big. If you get too big.
Trouble,
Yeah. Well, thank you, Luisa. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you so much for me, Doug.
All right, so that was Luisa. Isn't she somebody you just want to root for? She was awesome. If you want to check out some of her cool motion capture work or the commercials that she did, check it out. I put her website link in the notes. It's her first name and last name, but I'll put it in there so you can check it out, along with her IMDb is on there, so you can see all the stuff that she worked on. Don't forget, this Thursday, we have an amazing interview. I was lucky enough to but over the phone talk to Donnie Fauntleroy. He's a director. He directed a bunch of Seagal movies, a couple Anaconda movies, and he actually started off doing camera work on shows like Newhart in the 70s, and then he was doing camera work for Spielberg, and then he tells us how he met his wife, actress Leslie Ann Down. He worked on Terminator 2, and then for our next movie we're covering, it was his first job as director of photography, and that is for Munchie. That movie you're going to want to check out. Start now. It's on Amazon Prime. But don't forget to review, rate, share our podcast, subscribe, because you don't want to miss our interview with Don. He was awesome. And don't forget to follow us on all social media at Sequels Only and our new website, sequelsonly.com. Good night.